Hi, I'm Mary Tabbitt, producer of the show Growing Green, Gardening A to Z.
Hi, and I'm Lori Jensen, the director and also the executive director of the New Jersey Nursery and Landscape Association. Every month we will have an Ask a Pro section of our program, and we will be asking certified nursery and landscape professionals your gardening questions.
Hey, I'm Mary Tabbitt. We're here today at Hionis Florist and Greenhouse, and we have a segment, Ask a Pro. I have some questions I'm going to be asking, and the first question is, I keep hearing that I shouldn't build up the mulch around the trees in my yard. Is this true? And if so, why not?
Regarding today's question about mulch, to be clear, mulch is great for trees when it's applied correctly. It reduces weeds, conserves moisture, and improves the soil, all of which is great to keep your trees healthy. But when the mulch is too high and touches the tree's trunk, the moisture can build up, and the excess moisture creates a perfect condition for wood decay, diseases, and fungus, which can greatly damage your trees. So don't pile the mulch more than 2 inches just to cover the surface for the tree. If you have a question for a pro, email it to growinggreenaskapro@gmail.com. If your question is selected, you'll receive a Plant Something t-shirt from NJNLA.
Look who's here, Bruce Crawford, our main host of the show.
Thank you, Mary.
Nice seeing you.
Yes, same here.
Okay.
So, as she said, my name is Bruce Crawford. I'm the state program leader in home and public horticulture. I work for the Agricultural Experiment Station, which is a part of Rutgers University. And I'm really happy to participate in this program and share what I know about plant material.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Most people know jade plants as a tiny plant that looks like this. You put it on your windowsill, you enjoy it, and you water it maybe once a month, and you don't really give much thought to it. Now you take this, which is probably on the order of about a year old, add 55 years to it, and you get this. And it's just tree-like. It's awesome. And it's really easy to grow. Most people sort of get to this point, it gets dusty, they throw it out. This, if you keep it, put it outside in the summertime. It loves the rains in the summer. Cleans up the leaves, gets all the dust off, bring it back inside again. And if you're lucky, and I've had this happen a few times, it'll flower for you indoors, and it flowers in the wintertime. And you have to remember that this comes from the southern hemisphere, so for it, January is middle of the summer, so that's when it's going to bloom. So if you're lucky, you'll get this. It'll add a little excitement. It has a nice fragrance to it if you get your nose into it. And so I encourage everyone to not only just buy jade plants, but to really hold on to them, because this is something that actually passes down from generation to generation. So this morning we're with Tim Hionis, who has this awesome new machine. And I'm a machine geek, so I love seeing what's the newest thing, what's the latest thing. Tim Allen reincarnated. So one of the things that we're looking at is how is the fascinating business of growing annuals, how is it becoming automated and moving forward? So Tim, could you explain a little bit about the machine that's behind us,
Sure,
how
Bruce.
new it is, how does it operate? I mean, I was watching the bottom belt there bounce up and down, so how does the whole thing work? This is cool.
All right, Bruce. So this is a sticking machine that we brought over from the Netherlands from a company called ISO Group, and you know, Holland is very innovative when it comes to making things efficient in the greenhouse and growing and everything like that. And with the last couple of years, with there's labor shortage in our industry, and because of that, it's tough for us to find labor to actually have us do all the tasks that we need to get done, in a given day. So this is one of the things to help kind of alleviate some of that pressure for us. What a tedious task such as taking cuttings and sticking them in soil allows us to use the people that we have or had doing that to do other aspects in the greenhouse.
Yep. No, that makes perfect
So
sense.
this here is basically it's exactly what it's called, a sticking machine. So it takes unrooted cuttings of plant material and basically just picks them up off a belt and sticks them in soil. So right here we have our trays that will start getting plants ready, growing roots before we put them into the finished product. This is called a plug tray.
Okay.
So this is an 84 cell plug tray. So 84 plants go in one of these trays.
Okay. Okay. How long do they stay in that tray?
Until they get a good root system. Depending on what we're actually sticking in there, anywhere between about 2 weeks to 6 weeks long.
6 weeks.
You know?
Okay.
We want to make sure we establish a good root system. Then we'll take them out. We have other machinery that'll actually take them out of these cells and can
wow.
put them into our finished product as well.
That is impressive. So I think everyone can see how fast this is moving. So
Yes.
if you were trying to do this, it would be a blur and you just couldn't keep it up all day. So how many cuttings does that do an hour?
On average, it'll do anywhere from between 2,000 and 2,500 cuttings an hour, per hour.
That's amazing.
It is very impressive. It actually would take one person about 15 to 20 minutes to do one tray. This will do it in just about 2 minutes.
Wow.
So it's a big
what's it
savings.
potting up right now, or sticking?
Right now we're sticking sun patience. That'll be ready for the beginning of May.
Okay.
So I believe we're doing red. Red. We just finished up the white colors, and they come in all sorts of different colors, pinks, purples, as well.
Okay, and for those that aren't familiar with sun patients, they're huge. Obviously, as the name implies, they like sunshine.
Yes.
And they get up to about 2 feet tall and about 2 to 3 feet wide. So, and these have been good sellers for you, I guess, in the past.
Sun patience the request for sun patience has risen exponentially.
Good.
They went from a trial only about 4 or 5 years ago to in full force. Everybody's asking for them. It's just a tried. It's like a proven winner in the landscape. You plant, like you said, you plant it in the landscape, and it goes all the way through the spring, summer, into mid-fall.
Yep.
Before it's time to put mums in there. So landscapers love them. The homeowners love them. It's becoming one of our top sellers.
So when this is fully rooted out in these trays, what will you up-pot it into?
So sun patients go into a 6-inch size container or larger.
Okay.
Just because they grow so fast, and we've test trialed them in smaller containers. They just get too big too fast for us to kind of control. So we figured out that the 6-inch pot, 8-inch, 10-inch pot is the most ideal size for us to sell to the market.
Perfect. So I've always had really good luck with them. Do they require a lot of fertilizer, or are they pretty easy to grow in the field?
Sun patients do not require a lot of fertilizer at all.
Okay.
In fact, it's recommended not to fertilize them.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Low nutrients is actually, they do better.
And my experience with them too is that when you put them in sun, because everybody always thinks in patience they need to go in the shade, but these don't do as well in the shade, correct?
Oh yeah, they're more sun-loving.
They love sun.
Yes, exactly. Hence the name, sun patient.
That's what I figured, but I had to ask. And what colors do they come in?
They come in a variety of reds, oranges, pinks, purples, like 3 shades of pinks, 3 shades of purples.
Okay. And you haven't heard of sun patients yet, I really suggest that you go out and look for them in your local garden center. Great plant to add to your yard.
Can't agree with you more.
Let's talk about soil, today's first trade tip. First of all, soil is soil. Soil is what we reference for plants. Dirt is what we find under our fingernails. So for our purposes today, trade tip number 1 is soil. Soil is the most critical component before you take any gardening steps in your spring garden startup. Soil testing. Have you ever had your soil tested? Let's just assume you haven't, and go ahead and get it tested. pH, we have the Rutgers soil testing lab down in New Brunswick, and you have the reference to your county offices as well. They will test your soil. Proper soil is so critical to both the beauty and the success of your plants, both indoors and outdoors. So I'm holding a pot of soil right here. This is a potting soil, very nice and loose. And with that, I know that I'm ready for planting. So that's today's trade tip, is go to your Rutgers Cooperative Extension office and get your soil kit today.
This time of year, as we know, is bulb time. And so there's a couple of things that always I have to get across. First of all, people call everything a bulb. And I think they should know that there are actually different types of organs, quote unquote organs, that you're buying, that you're planting in the ground that we call a bulb. So a true bulb is like an onion. When you cut it open, it's got layers in it. And those layers are actually modified leaves. And I think that's what's so cool about it, because you look at it and you go, wow, that's a leaf. So next time you're eating an onion, look at it, and actually what you're cutting apart is a leaf. But we also have modified stems. So if you have a crocus, which unfortunately we don't have in front of us, but I know everyone knows what a crocus is. And when you look at a crocus, that's actually a modified stem. So if you were to cut a crocus open, you're going to lose 20 cents, but that's okay. So next fall, cut a crocus open and look at it, and you'll notice that it's solid. So that's one of the things you want to keep in mind, is that we call them all bulbs, but they're technically not all bulbs. Now, if you're going out and you're buying forced plants, there's a couple of things that you want to keep in mind. You want to make sure that they're all coming on evenly. In other words, are all the flowers showing, or some sort of lagging behind? Like you see this little guy here, he's a little bit shorter, so you want an even display. And you want to buy them when they are still in a bud state. If you get them home and they're like this, they're only going to last for a couple of days. So you want to get them while they're looking like this, because you'll know that you'll get about 2 weeks of flower out of it. Keep them away from heat ducts and heaters, because that will just push the flowers quicker. So if you want to have it on the kitchen table or on the dining room table, bring it out for the dinner or for the meal, and then put it back by a window where it's a little bit cooler. Once they finish blooming, the tulips, they do not do well as a perennial plant. What the difficulty is that the tulip will produce entirely a new set of bulbs, which will all be too small, and they will not flower for you next year. And so you're just, as heartbreaking as it is, you really should just compost the bulbs. But if you have crocus, or if you have daffodils that you bought, those actually, the mother bulb stays and doesn't wither. So those you can actually leave in a windowsill for as long as, until they start to wither on you, turn brown, the leaves, and then plant it in the ground. Now the key thing is that when you're looking at something like this, and I'll knock it out of the soil for you so you can see how they are, look at those roots. So that's an actively growing plant. But, and we're going to operate here, you notice that this bulb was only planted an inch or so below the surface, and not even that. And that's way too shallow. So when you're planting bulbs in the ground, so say you have, and this hyacinth will be perennial, it will come back for you, so this you can plant in the ground. You want to plant it 3 times the diameter. So in other words, you want to plant this so that it's 3 inches to the top of the bulb. And so that everyone tends to plant them too shallow. You actually want to get them deep in the ground. That will give you a really good flower set as you go forward. The hyacinth won't be as full in the future, but it will look more natural. It'll have 2 to about 20 flowers per stem, and it will have a more natural feel to it. And while we're here, let's just chop it open. And I know everyone's going, oh my goodness, you're destroying that bulb. Why, how do you do that? But when you chop it open, you'll notice that inside you'd see those layers, just like in an onion, and those are actually modified leaves. And so that's what you're looking at. So I've made a bit of a mess here, but let's sort of put this to one side. And something else that you can do at this time of year is start to sow some seeds. And what I've got gathered here are some perennials. So people often think of buying perennials just as a plant, but you can buy them as seeds too, and you'll save a lot of money. And certain seeds really come true. And when you look at purple coneflower, or you look at black-eyed Susan, these come really easy from seed. So this is a guarantee. So these are something you want to buy. Others, and sort of, it varies obviously by plant, but some seeds are a little bit more tricky, and so they'll be difficult. But if you're starting out, purple coneflower, great for pollinators. Butterflies love it. Goldfinches love the seeds of both of these. So you'll be attracting all sorts of wildlife to your garden, and this is the time of year to be planting out the seed. Something to keep in mind is the seed is relatively small, and so it's not going to be large. And so the thing to keep in mind is don't plant the seed deep. A lot of people put the seed to the bottom of the container. And so when you look at this, you're looking at a seed that's give or take a 1/16 of an inch in diameter, give or take. So you only want to put that just below the surface of the soil. It needs light in order to germinate. So if you put it at the bottom of the pot, it's not going to get enough light, and it may not germinate for you. So when you're doing these, just sow them very shallow, put them in a sunny window, and within 3 to 4 weeks, you'll start to see some life happening. And then as you get into June, you can pinch out the seedlings. I would grow them on in a container at least until August, and then plant the plant permanently in the ground, give or take in September. So those are some easy things that you can do at this time of year. Just keep in mind there's all types of tulips. I should also mention this is a Foster tulip, and Tulipa fosteriana. And this one is actually fairly perennial. So if you do happen to come across these, which have these nice yellow and orange banding, this will actually is fairly perennial. So again, planting it deep. Plant the bulb down about 6 to 8 inches. That will guarantee a repeat bloom on the tulips. The rest of these I wouldn't bother with, but this one is quite good. So, and if you plant them deep, that's a pretty good way to get a perennial plant out of it. So thank you for joining us, and look forward to the next session.
So we're going to talk about plants that attract pollinators.
Okay.
So anything that has a lot of pollen in it that attracts bees, butterflies. So do you have any suggestions?
Big blooms. We have stuff like hyacinths here that are attracted by bees and stuff like that. Also Gerberas, flowers like salvias, and parsley is a good one.
Parsley
you know,
is good.
it's a good pollinator. So yeah, there's a lot of blooming stuff that's available. Mandavillas and hibiscus.
Oh,
those
all
are
the
great.
tropicals.
All the tropicals. Those are great pollinators.
Yeah, those are nice.
Mandavillas. Anything red, like red mandavillas for hummingbirds, you know, if you're a hummingbird lover.
Yeah. And then the only thing that I usually suggest to people is be careful where you plant them, though, because a lot of people, they plant them by their pool or they plant them by the doorway. So you don't necessarily want to have bees in those areas. So keep it in an area of the garden where you might want to put a bench and sit out there, and they look great too, right?
It's a great idea.
Who wouldn't
Looks
want to sit
fantastic.
out there in the garden?
Absolutely.
Mary Tabbitt, we're at Hionis Greenhouses, and I've got Tim. Tim,
Hi, Mary.
how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you. How long have you been in business here?
We've been at this location for 22 years, but Hionis Greenhouses has been established since 1985.
Okay. And who started?
Our parents started, so it's 2 generations working and building the business since 1985. My parents started in '85. We moved to this facility in the late '90s. My brothers and I took it over.
Okay. So it's huge.
Thank you.
And if somebody can't find what they're looking for here,
They don't need it.
they're not looking for the right thing.
Right. Exactly.
Did you go to school for this, or is this something family taught?
No, it's family taught. You know, ever since we were kids, you know, any spare time we were in the greenhouse, kind of helping our parents, you know, along, and so it's all like, you know, firsthand knowledge, you know, and experience.
And where are your parents from?
My parents are originally from Greece, a little island called Kefalonia, Greece, which is a beautiful island surrounded by beautiful blue waters. If you ever get a chance, you'd love it over there. Take a trip.
Lots of flowers, lots of beautiful flowers.
Lots of flowers, a lot of greenery. Yes. So
Is that where they got the passion to open a greenhouse?
they got the passion. They started in the '60s. You know, and yeah, and over in Greece they had their gardens and the olive groves. That, you know, so yeah, they were, you know, it's in their blood to grow something.
Do you know the square footage of this location?
This location is just under 6 acres under glass. We have 2 acres of polyplastic greenhouses, and we have 2.5 acres of outdoor rolling, which we can take stuff from certain parts of the greenhouse, move them outdoors so they can get hardened off. They get the outdoor environment before we ship.
And people that are from other counties in New Jersey, how do they find out about you?
We've been around for a long time, but we go through with trade associations. They have shows and trade shows, and that helps get our name out there. But we ship all over the Northeast.
Okay. And the average public, they can come in here and shop as well?
Yes, this side, the area that we're standing in, is open to the public, and now and in the springtime, they're more than welcome to come in and walk through this side of the greenhouse and pick out flowers right from the tables that they're grown on.
Last time I was here, I noticed we were talking about the jade plant that you have over there. That's amazing. 58 years old?
Yeah. It's been with us for a long time. It's a beautiful plant. Originally we had it for sale, and then after a certain amount of time and the size that it got, it's a showpiece. So people actually come in just to kind of look at it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Coming from this little plant to something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you get them bigger like that? What do you do as far as you have to repot them every so often? Yeah,
once something gets too big for its pot, especially something like a jade, will get top heavy and won't stand up straight. So the pot just can't support the plant, and so you need to kind of bump it up into a bigger size pot.
Well, I never knew you had such a beautiful place here. I'm glad I was able to come.
It's an honor to have you here.
And thank you. And how can people find you on your website?
We have a website, www.hionisgreenhouses.com. That's probably the best way to kind of look to see where we're at, get directions. We're not on a main highway. We're off the beaten path. So you can get directions, our hours of operations, and a lot of stuff that we grow throughout the year is posted on there.
Well, it's right in Branchburg. It's right off of Route 22?
Right off of Route 22, yeah.
22.
Yeah.
So
We're technically in Reddington.
Before you hit White House, you're kind of making a leftover off the highway and you're here.
Exactly.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And make sure you come out and check this beautiful place out.
So Lisa, can you believe this wonderful place that we're standing in? Isn't it awesome?
It's great. I love being here.
Yeah, it's so alive, but we're sort of behind the scenes right now at Hionis Greenhouse, and this is where it all happens. This is where they grow the plants. This is where they start with small plugs and then build them up to saleable plants so that when homeowners come, they're like, wow. And no one really understands what goes into making a plant.
Yeah.
So, and look above it, look at the curtains, and because people never really think about curtains in a greenhouse, but they come over at night and they keep the heat of the greenhouse in so it doesn't go throughout the top, and then during the day they actually cut the sunlight, so it keeps it cooler in here.
I never even noticed the curtains until today, and I was amazed to see them open and close.
Yep. So, and all of that goes into making hanging baskets and other things. So earlier today, we saw they were making and sticking little impatiens. And so this is what we didn't see, was that they're putting them in these little tiny sacks. And then you'll see the roots coming out of them.
Yep.
And this is about 3 weeks after it was stuck. And
Okay.
and see how vigorous, and they don't really do too much to it. You just put it in soil and magically it roots. Isn't that
Wow.
cool?
That is really cool.
So, and they'll take these and they'll put them into hanging baskets. And so they'll put 3 of them per 10-inch hanging basket. And by the time we get to May, it'll be a huge flower display.
And then that's what we want.
That's
Big
what we
baskets.
want. Big
beautiful
baskets.
baskets.
That's right. So, have you used sun patience in your designs?
I have.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
it's a great plant.
It's an awesome plant.
Yeah.
And another plant which I think is really cool is, if I can step back over here for a second, not destroy the plant. Oh, actually, okay, here we go. Let me actually take the whole tray. There we go.
Oh, we got the whole tray now.
We got the whole tray now.
Wow.
But this is Million Bells, and starts out with these little tiny plants, but then this is sort of a spreading plant. And I bet you've used this in container designs.
Exactly, container gardens all the time, and it's so pretty when it trails down over the side.
Yep.
Love using them.
Great spiller plant.
Yeah.
And look at that orange, just it gives you that little bit of punch, and they bloom all summer long.
Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing, these little tiny plants actually have little flowers. on
Isn't that
some of
amazing?
them. It
Yeah,
is.
yeah. So they're really jumping out of the basket here, but I think that's just so great.
It
So
is.
they'll take something like this, and then they'll put it into a 4-inch pot like this, and this happens to be a dahlia, but in a couple of weeks' time, this will be, give or take, about this tall, and will start to flower.
Yeah.
So, are you a fan of dahlias?
I am.
Yes.
Well, I'm a fan of all flowers.
Ah, there we
Really
go.
not a flower I don't love. So.
I was giving the bad answer there, huh? So, one last thing, which I happen to really love, are cannas.
Love those too.
And great tropical plant,
Yes.
deer resistant, I might add, and they'll get to about this tall. And this one with the orange on the, or a reddish color to the leaf, will probably have a red flower. So it'll give you a nice drama in the garden.
That nice tall spike that comes up from them.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, well, thank you for being with me here today. It was great learning a lot about you and your design work.
Oh, thank you. I had a great time.
Good, good.
And there's nothing better at this time of year than to come into a greenhouse and have it feel like spring.
I so agree with you.
So I guess back to the winter now. Ugh.
Watch them. They are packing hyacinths, which are about to be shipped out. And this is the whole process, how it comes down the conveyor belt. And they have to be quick. You notice, if we were joking before, but it's just like Lucy in the candy factory. If they mess up, you have hyacinths all over the place. You'll have dirt everywhere and broken plants. Can they go? Oh, they're going quick. Oh, this is fun. So I could do this all day long. Okay, we're on. So here they're packing the hyacinths for the shipment. So how many shipments do you have a day? Do you know, Tim, offhand?
We grow about 200,000 tulips, hyacinths, and daffodils for Easter, and so this is how we get them in out of the greenhouse into boxes and into the stores. It takes us about 2 weeks to pack everything up.
This is totally awesome, and you can see how quickly it happens. So it's a fast process to get a box filled. Uh-oh. One's about to get away. Oh, go, it came back. And how, I would assume that these are shipped in temperature-controlled trucks?
Trucks, tulips and hyacinths are temperature sensitive, so if the temperature gets too warm, they'll pop open in the box. Okay. So we like to keep the temperature right around 40 degrees. So this way it keeps them from stretching or blooming in the box before they get to the store level.
That makes sense.
Just want to thank you very much for letting us come here today. We had a great time, learned a lot.
Oh, you're very welcome, and I thank you guys for coming out and doing what you do and supporting the industry. You know?
Thank you.
All right.
Hi, Steve Wagner here. As Vice President of NJNLA, we are visiting Lucas Greenhouses. It is my supreme pleasure to give this award, the Professional Horticultural Company of the Year, to Lucas Greenhouses, who exemplifies the finest in growing greenhouse crops for our industry and sets the standard for which all of our greenhouse industry should aspire to. So again, it's my pleasure to George and his family to present this award.
I want to thank the NJNLA for bestowing this prestigious honor upon Lucas Greenhouses. When I was called to ask about accepting the honor, I said I would like this to be a family event, because my family, both my real family and our production teams, top to bottom, from management all the way down to the people picking orders, are all part of this family and part of this team. And so I really want to recognize everyone that makes Lucas Greenhouses what it is today. We started out with 9,000 square feet back in 1979 with a goal and a dream of having an acre. Today we run about 1,800,000 square feet with 35 acres and about 40 acres of outdoor production. And just God's richly blessed us, our family, and all those folks that work for us. So again, thank you to NJNLA for this recognition, and it is a privilege and an honor. Thank you.